Hi, everybody. This is David Oleski broadcasting live from the home office in Westchester, Pennsylvania, with the Rittenhouse Square Fine Art Show, 5 o'clock live. Today, our guest will be Bernard Zalon, a etching artist, good friend of mine. Really quickly, I want to go over the June show is June 6th, 7th, and 8th. Applications are open right now. The deadline for applying to the June show is January 13th of 2025. And that is on zapplication.org. That's the word application with a Z.org. If you don't have a profile on there, get a profile started, learn about the show, learn about the system. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. We're all here to help. We have nothing else to do. None of us have jobs. We're all just happy to help anybody be part of our great event because that's what we care about most. So looking for Bernard Zalon here. Oh, here and there he is. So we're going to bring Bernard on board. Spread some holiday cheer.
All right.
Bern? All right. How are you?
That went off very smoothly. I'm good. How are you, David?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much. Thank you for joining us.
You're very welcome.
So,
As soon as we get off, I'm going to apply to Rittenhouse. I didn't even know the applications were up yet.
oh, yeah, they're up for both shows.
Yeah. All right.
Oh, yeah, yeah. And then, yeah, deadline is not till January 13th
Right.
and in one short month. But yeah, there you go. So, how long have you done the Rittenhouse Square show?
I think I started the year after it moved out of the park.
Oh, right. That would have been like
2002?
2003, maybe two.
Yeah. 2002, right?
Yeah.
I,
It's going way back. Yeah, it was right in the beginning. I only did it in the park, maybe twice.
I think it was
Yeah,
right after 9/11 that I did it.
that's right. That's right. So, yeah, so you're a veteran of the
I'm
show.
a veteran. I was.
You are, but
I wasn't a veteran then, but now I am now.
but your real history is on what is it, 80th Street in Manhattan?
Well, that's, yeah, in the last 20 years or so. I mean, I've been selling on the street forever, not
Yeah.
all over. I mean, I started selling plastic flowers in 1971.
Oh my gosh. But doing etchings as we know it now, you've been doing that for 20 some years?
Well, no, I've been doing etchings for like about 40 years. I
Wow.
started doing etchings in 81, but before that, I was selling hand colored offset prints of my pen and ink drawing.
Wow. Interesting. It must have been a different world then. Were you only selling in Manhattan or were shows
Well,
starting up at all? Like,
the first time I ever sold on the street was in front of Macy's on Flatbush Avenue in Brooklyn. And
ah,
that wasn't a very good spot. But I used to do the show on the Brooklyn Heights Promenade. I did. That was a really good show.
oh, really? Does that even
Yeah.
exist anymore?
The Promenade does, but not the show.
Right. Have you ever done, you probably don't do Gracie Square because that's like your same neighborhood.
It's not my neighborhood. Not at all. Gracie Square is on the Upper East Side. I'm on the
Well,
Upper West Side.
okay.
And I did Gracie
From,
Square.
as from outside of Manhattan, it's kind of like the same city. But you right there in the middle of Manhattan, yes, that's a completely different
Well, I
neighborhood.
did Gracie Square a long time ago. I did it 2 or 3 times and I hated it.
Oh, well, you can tell us how you really felt about it. We're all friends here. You can be
They
honest.
were
Um,
very snooty and too many dogs.
yeah, there's that. So you do a bunch of other shows now. Mostly stay in the Northeast.
Yeah, but I mean, historically, did a lot of Texas shows. Speaking of Texas, I had a whole Texas Louisiana circuit. I used to go down to New Orleans every winter for a long time. I did Jazz Fest for 10 years.
Well,
I I tried Florida for a while, but I couldn't make any money in Florida.
Yeah, yeah, you have to crack that market. I mean, it's something about color and presentation. I don't, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And
So
Cherry Creek I did a few times. No,
really,
yeah.
wow, I did not know that. Yeah, I I actually applied to Cherry Creek this year. Just yeah, if I get in, I'll probably go. But if I don't get in, I won't be heartbroken. Just the 3 days drive, and it's just another show.
Oh, well, yeah, I know, but I love the trip. I love driving out there.
Oh yeah, it's a
And,
wonderful drive. Yeah,
and I've tried. I can't get back in it anyway. So I'm not gonna
right,
even try.
right. So, in the 20 some years you've been doing Rittenhouse, what do you like most about the Rittenhouse Square show?
They buy my stuff. I
Well,
mean,
yeah,
I make
okay, that's the
I make
bottom line thing. But
I
okay,
make
what else?
well. I also like the show. I mean, it's very pleasant. The neighborhood is a very pleasant neighborhood. I love the whole thing. The people, the architecture. It's great.
Do you get to spend a lot of time in the city outside of doing the show?
No, I just go there and leave. Go there and come home. I come
Really?
home Sunday night.
Have you
Yeah,
ever been to the art museums?
yeah. I Me and my friend used to go out there, drive out there to get drunk, and then drive home.
Oh, nice.
I'm so,
I mean, yeah,
we go to,
for all of you
we would,
young viewers out there, he means getting drunk on life because the experiences of the city are just wonderful. At no point would he ever infer that he got drunk and then got back on the road to drive home.
we would go to this margarita place on South Street. Really potent margarita. But I won't go into any more details about that.
Yeah, yeah. Well, yeah, South Street used to be my only experience with Philadelphia, and recently we found ourselves on South Street and found a really nice restaurant, and I have to say it was kind of forgettable, and I don't really understand how a restaurant could be in that neighborhood and not be remarkable.
So what is South Street different now? Does
It
it look
is. There's a Whole Foods on South Street, and I don't think Zipperhead is there. I don't think it's still. I mean, Pearl Paint is not there
like
anymore.
it's not anywhere?
Yeah, well, I guess not anywhere. Here, somebody saying John's on South Street. Um, I mean, is Tattooed Mom even still there? I mean, I used to go. Tower Records was on South Street. I forget what else, but it was. I mean, that was all the real like when it was like the edge of society.
Right. That's what it was like. Yeah, I haven't been there in a long time.
Yeah, no, well, I mean, like I said, there's a Whole Foods there. Hipsters. It's not like it was, but it's progress.
So this is my studio.
Nice.
And this is where I do, I guess, half of the stuff that I do, and the rest of it I go to a studio in New Jersey and I do the printing and the etching.
So, how far is this from where you live?
Where? New Jersey?
No, where you're working right now, where
This
the
is where I
studio
live.
right here. Oh, you live in your studio.
Well, this is one room of my apartment.
One room of your apartment, which is your studio.
Yeah, I
Ah,
mean,
nice.
we could go for a walk around the apartment, but you don't want to do that.
No, we don't need to do that. We can all use our
Right.
imagination and imagine what,
But
yeah.
this is the studio in my apartment.
Right. Nice. Well, that's nice. I mean, yeah. So you're the place in New Jersey. What's different about that?
Well, the place in New Jersey is an etching studio. That's where they have presses, and that's where I can get messy. I print there.
Wow.
I can work.
So what do you
Can work. I can
so what
work
do
on
you do in this studio?
in this studio. I do like the preparatory drawings, and I'll do needling on the plates. I'll do the needling on the plates, and sometimes I'll even do the acid work here. But
Oh,
for
really?
all the but for all the real dirty stuff, I go to New Jersey.
Right. Question came up from David Sear, wondering if you're etching on zinc or copper plates.
Copper.
Copper. Why? Is that softer?
Well, I used to etch on zinc. I don't like zinc. Yeah, people use nitric acid and the bubbles, and I just think it's much more declassé than copper.
Oh, okay, interesting.
But I
So,
know people love zinc, but I think you get a cleaner bite with acid with copper. And I've also used brass, so they're both good.
oh, interesting. Yeah. Oh, so and then doing the acid etching in the same place you live, that there's not going to be any health issues from that.
Well, I'm really not using acid. Well, I used to use acid, but now I'm using ferric chloride, which is a salt. It's a corrosive salt,
Interesting.
and the bite's pretty much the same as the nasty stuff.
Right.
The
Interesting.
only problem with it stains. I mean, my bathroom floor is, pretty messy.
So
Especially,
you're probably not getting your security deposit back.
yeah, right. And yeah, all right. I don't like to use acid here if I can help it.
Right, right. So, are you are you limited with the size you can do, or just by choice you would rather only work smaller?
Well, the biggest thing I did was the bicycle, right? The
Yeah, yeah.
bicycle. Yeah, and that's about as big a plate I could work on the press, because the
Right,
press
right. Interesting.
and and I don't. Yeah, smaller is better because I can fit it all in my car.
Right. That makes sense. So, what are you working on now?
Well, I just finished 3 things actually. Well, I did that the fried eggs.
Yeah, yeah. That's a brand new
Yeah,
piece.
that's brand new.
Wow.
Yeah, that came out great.
So
And then I
that's
did,
that's both like etched with color and embossed with relief.
yeah. So it's like 3 plates. One plate is made out of mat board. That's the embossing plate. I cut it out and go
Right,
through the press, and paper gets pushed into the hole. So that's how I get the.
right. So
And
you
then
do the printing, the etching, ink color first, and then the embossing last.
yeah, I print the both plates first, and then I do the embossing plate last. And then also, in addition, the pepper, I roll the pepper on. I make a stencil out of Mylar with little holes in the stencil, and I roll black ink through that onto the black plate. So I print the black plate, and then I print the yellow plate, and then I do the embossing.
So another question: how many prints do you usually pull for an edition?
Generally, my editions are 150, but it's rare that I get anywhere near that.
Really? Ah, like the lifesavers. Is each color an edition?
Yeah.
Nice, nice. So, are there any that you've filled the edition of 150 and they're out of circulation?
Yeah. Well, I don't know if you can. You see that?
Oh yeah, I remember that piece.
So I did this in 181, but originally it was different than this. I sold out of it, so I changed the plate. so this is. So I don't even think it's a second edition. It's really totally different.
Oh,
And then I have those rain things, those rain etchings with the people with the umbrellas and the lines.
right, right,
So
right,
I've sold I did a small one. I must have done 6 editions, but each one is different. I redo the plate each
right,
time.
right.
And Vertigo, I sold out of the first edition, and then I did a whole different version of it, which is embossed. But that's the
Right.
one that I'm selling now.
So recently, the leather coat, the
Yeah,
the wrinkled denim, are those new?
yeah.
Yeah, those are fantastic. I love
But
those.
I don't show it anymore because it never sold and it's too much to carry around.
Interesting.
It takes
Yeah.
up too much room.
So, what do you have that's actually in the drawing or initial etching stages right now?
Nothing. I just finished everything.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah.
That'd be a good feeling.
In the last couple of months, I mean, I hadn't done anything new in over a year. And then I came up with that beach one called The Passersby, which is actually Twilight Zone inspired. I have three Twilight Zone inspired etchings now.
Wow. Do you generally take your winter vacations in Mexico? Do you have any that are inspired from Mexico?
Well, that one was The Passersby.
Oh, okay.
It was a beach in Mexico, this beach where I hang out in Mexico.
Right.
But then I realized that it was also inspired by this Twilight Zone episode.
Which Twilight Zone episode?
The Passersby,
The
where
Passersby.
there's a woman sitting on her porch and she sees these people passing by her porch, and it's at the end of the Civil War, and the last one who came by was Abraham Lincoln. So they were all dead, and it turned out
Right.
she was dead too, and her husband walked by and she went chasing after her husband at the end.
Yeah, interesting. So there's a little bit of a cross reference there, everybody. You need to get, it should be like prescribed reading and viewing before these interviews so you have context. So here, your follow up should be to see that Twilight episode of the Passersby.
Yeah.
Okay, here, somebody, I have an artist proof called Night Game. Can't say where I got it, but have you thought about doing an update to it? An update to, I don't know, maybe the etching. I'm not sure what
What?
they're asking.
Somebody wrote in that they said they had an etching of mine called Night Game.
Yes, an artist proof, A or AP. Does that mean artist proof?
Yeah. Oh wow! I didn't think anybody bought that one.
Yeah, it's Westchester produce. It's of Shea Stadium.
Wait a minute. No, that's my nephew, Westchester Produce.
So you're getting a shout out from family here.
I guess. Oh, there
So,
you go. Oh, there it is. Hey,
so the question is, would you consider doing an update to it?
no,
No.
I'm not really. I'm not into baseball.
Yeah.
That was my one baseball thing that I did. Other than the baseball, I mean,
Other than the baseball, right? Yeah, that was the epic piece. Yeah. So, okay, I have two questions. One, if you haven't been to Mexico yet, are you going this winter?
I don't know yet.
Okay, and then so what's next on the slate for you? What are you doing next?
As far as what?
As far as artwork, as far as your life as Bernard Zalon,
Well, I
the
guess whatever I'm doing next will make itself known whenever it does. I mean, I don't. I mean, I can't force anything to happen. I just wait for some kind of inspiration.
so you wait for inspiration. You don't just get busy and just see where it leads you.
No, that I've tried that. It never worked. I
Really?
have to wait for an idea.
See, that's fascinating because most people I talk to, they just start making marks and get led into a piece, especially a lot of the conceptual and abstract artists. But even the landscape artists, they're doing rough sketches that are building up to what
Well,
will
you
be
know,
an endeavor.
I used to do that. I mean, I used to carry a 4x6 sketchbook around with me all the time, and I used to do a lot of sketching. And then when I first started doing it, I was doing a lot of just conceptual stuff out of my head. I wasn't even drawing what I saw. I was just doing all this stuff out of, and I would get a lot of ideas from that.
But you don't do
But
that anymore.
I don't do that. I mean, I like to paraphrase Bob Dylan. I used to do that, but I can't do that anymore. But I can do other things now.
Well, we hopefully all can do other things now.
But yeah, I don't. I think I stopped carrying a sketchbook around when those digital cameras were invented, and it was so much easier to take a picture. You got instant gratification. You know, you could see it right away.
Right, if you are going to approach that like a sketchbook. I mean, I grab a lot of source material and I find a lot of times just stopping and paying attention to it long enough to take a picture or get video of it is already making a bookmark of something that'll be a reference.
Yeah, like recently, I was on the subway and I saw this guy, a few people, or I saw a guy with these really incredible sneakers. So I took a picture of him, and maybe something will come of that.
Yeah, somebody, Suzanne Fahey Art, she never puts her pencil down. Yeah, I would think sketching would be kind of the foundation of a lot of different kinds of artists. But then, like the guy I just interviewed last week, his work is very process oriented, that it wouldn't exist if it weren't for the materials in the process that makes the image, which you have to just get started to even figure out what it's going to be.
Well, I have to have an idea in my head, and then I have to think. A lot of the stuff they're hard to do. I mean, I don't know exactly how to do them because, well, I do better. I like the basketball. The
Right.
basketball that I did. So
Yeah.
I had that. I said I wanted to do a basketball. And I knew how I wanted it to look. The same way with the fried eggs. I knew I wanted it to look, but I didn't really know how to do it. So I would just think about it. Like the basketball, I thought about it for like 2 months, and I came up with a plan, and I did it, and it came out.
How did you get the pebbled finish?
Oh, that's a blind embossing. One plate. I just etched a lot of little holes in the metal, and that goes through the press without any ink. That's why it's called a blind embossing. And that's how I got the pebbles.
Right. How did you get the surface of the leather jacket? Is that like is that embossed too?
No,
That's not embossed. It just
but
looks like it
it's
because of.
textured. The way I did it. I used a litho pencil aquatint. You
And
know
what
what
is that?
aquatint? Do you know what aquatint is?
Aquatint.
Aquatint is how you get the tonalities,
Right.
as opposed to the lime, which is etching. So the aquatint is done with you sprinkle powdered rosin on the metal, and then you melt the rosin, and you put it in the acid, and the acid bites in between the particles of rosin. And the longer it's in the acid, the deeper and rougher the plate will get, and the more ink it'll hold. So that's how I get the tones. And with an
Right.
with a litho crayon aquatint, I draw on the rosin plate with a litho crayon, litho pencil, litho crayon, and you get a certain kind of texture.
So then when
And,
you etch it,
and
you're
the harder you press, the lighter it'll be, the less ink it'll hold because it'll be resisting more acid.
right. Fascinating. So everything has to be thought of in
Yeah,
reverse.
yeah, and with embossing, it's got to be thought of in reverse in more than one way. It's got to be in 3 dimensions. The
Right.
ins go out and the outs go in,
Well, and
and
yeah,
left
just
and right.
a mirror image, how you would compose it. Typically, people compose from left to right, but everything you do will be flipped.
Right, but with the embossing, it's not a mirror image. It's like a 3 dimensional. It's going
Right,
in
but
and
if
out
it's
as opposed
reverse
to
of what you're pushing is actually pulling.
right.
Interesting. So, what else? What else do you want to talk about?
Um, well, the thing with my work is my stuff is pretty varied in style and the way it looks. And a lot of people have this body of work, which when you look at it, it's that like your work. You have a body of work,
Right.
but I don't really have that because I have these different ideas, and they have to use different kind of methodologies to get them to work. They look different.
Right. You're
But I do go through, but I
go ahead, I'm sorry.
go through periods where a lot of things fit in a certain, like I do the circles. I've done a lot of circles. I've done a lot of freehand sketching type things, and yeah, I don't know. So yeah, that's what I wanted to say.
Have you ever played with, I don't want to say abstracts, but things that are more
I've
intuitive and less?
I've done a few abstracts.
You have.
Yeah, you ever see the one with the square, the smoking square?
I'm trying to think. Yeah, it rings a bell for some reason. Yeah.
Let me see if I have it. Yeah, here it is.
Oh, yeah, I don't know that piece. Oh,
Yeah, so this one, here's some. I had this idea. This idea just hit me, and I did it.
so question came up. Where did you train or school in printmaking? It's come to your history.
Well, the first printmaking class I took was at the old Brooklyn Museum Art School. That was in 1974. But I didn't really get into it then. And then 6 years later, I decided I wanted to do a more traditional medium. So I thought I'd do lithography since I was selling these offset prints, which is like offset lithography, which, you know. So I went to the Art Students League and I went to the litho class and they showed me lithographs, but I didn't like them. They just looked too kind of flat and washed out. And so I went across the hall to the etching class, and I knew something about etching, and so I stayed there for 40 years.
Yeah. So that was that taken like as a credit course, or was that just something that was just available as a workshop?
Well, it's a school. There are classes, but
Right.
I would enroll in the class, and I would use it as a studio. I pretty much
Right.
learned everything in the first year, and everything else I learned, I just taught myself, because depending on what I needed to do.
Does that answer your question, David Sear? Um,
Is,
so you
is he
I'm
is he
sorry.
an etcher? Is
No,
David an etcher?
he's a landscape painter. He recently did a residency in Yellowstone National Park, and but yeah,
I
but for all I know, he maybe does etching and knows a lot about it. And I was just talking to him, and maybe I owe him another interview and find out about his etching. But you know, you started. This is interesting. You started as a architect.
Yeah, I started. Yeah, because I didn't know what I wanted to be when I grew up. I was in this lecture class in Brooklyn College, and I was doing these doodles in the margins of my notebook using a Parker 45 fountain pen. But the flip side are the points, because I could get a really fine line, and I would do these abstract isometric perspectives in my notebook. And then I looked across the aisle, and there was this guy taking notes with this pen, which had a needle sticking out of it. And that was like one of the first rapidograph. So I said, wow, I got to get one of those. So I did that, and I went home, and I had a triangle and a T-square, and I was doing these doodles with a rapidograph. And I abstract these abstract doodles, and I loved doing them. And I said, boy, if somebody would just pay me to do this, I'd be happy. But I didn't see that happening, so I studied architecture because that seemed to be the closest thing to what I was doing.
So you go to college to study architecture?
Yeah. I transferred out of Brooklyn College to City College because they had the architecture
Oh, okay.
board thing. And then one summer, my mother wanted me to get a summer job, so that was the only time the summer of '71, I think, went looking for a job. I went up and down Fifth Avenue, Madison Avenue, went to every architect's office, couldn't get past the secretary. So I went out on the street and I saw this girl selling plastic flowers on the street. And I saw a lot of people doing that summer. For some reason, it was big. So I asked her, well, how do I do this? And she told me where to go, and I did it, and that's what I did. I told her I was selling plastic flowers on the street that summer. I loved it. It was great. I loved selling on the street. And Sunday afternoons, I would start on the 72nd Street entrance to Central Park on Fifth Avenue. And I met this guy named Delbart Duchesne, who was selling offset prints of these beautifully rendered pen and ink drawings. And we would hang out until I got enough nerve to go into the park, and I would sell them in the park until the cops chased me out. And then the summer was over. I went back to architecture school. One of my instructors hired me out of school, and that's what I did for 3 years. I worked for him, and I would run into Delbart every now and then. And then one day I was really fed up with architecture, and I said, well, I'm going to do what Delbart does. I already did these drawings. I'm going to make offset prints of them, and I'm going to sell them on the street, and I'll be an artist. So I did that. And then in the summer of in 75, I went on vacation to Spain. And I got a postcard from my boss, Richard Tatner. He said, well, you might want to cut your vacation short because we're going to have to lay you off. So that was like the high point of my life. That meant I could collect unemployment insurance for 65 weeks and sell on the street. So I stayed in Spain, and then I went back. And then I went to the office, and Richard changed his mind. He said, Bernard, he wanted to keep me on. So I said, Richard, do me a favor. Lay me off. He couldn't believe it. So that's how I got started.
Nice. That's a good story. That's interesting. You mentioned, what are you going to do, when you grow up? And, anymore, I wind up thinking, it's not when I grow up, it's like if I grow up. I don't feel like I am growing up. Some things I do are very adult, but for the most part, I'm surrounded by playthings, and every day I'm in the studio. It's like I'm just making a painting. I don't really think of it as work.
Yeah, we're like rock musicians.
Yeah, we don't. We don't have to take anything seriously. Which
I just think that if all of my etchings were songs or albums instead of etchings, I could have been a rock star. I might have been one of the new Dylans.
you might have been, yeah. I mean, has your work ever been used for like album art or book covers or any applications like that?
No, I did one cover of this guy. Let me see. Oh, I don't know what it is. I just made an etching out of it. He saw one of my things, and he wanted to put it on his cover for his 45. This was in New Orleans back in the 70s. And that was the only time.
So, when's the last time you were in New Orleans?
Long, long time ago. It was before the hurricane.
Oh, right. Yeah. So you were doing shows there up until then?
Yeah, well, when I first went on the road, I first got to learn how to drive a car, and then I went on the road with my stuff. And I went to Texas, and I had a girlfriend, an old girlfriend who lived in Texas. I went there, I stayed with her, and I booked an indoor show there. It wasn't very good. And then I left Texas, and drove 6 hours to New Orleans, and I got out of the car, and I went to a gas station. I asked them, how do I get to the French Quarter? And so he told me. I went to the French Quarter. I got out of the car, and I looked around, and I said, holy shit, this is great. It was like a bizarro Disneyland. So I went to Jackson Square. I asked this artist, say, where can I stay? I'm an artist, blah, blah, blah. And she told me about this rooming house. So I stayed in this funky rooming house, and I would sell it at the student unions of Loyola and Tulane during the week. And on the weekend, I would sell at the flea market. And it was great. I mean, it was New Orleans. It was like I got there just at the right time before it all changed.
Right.
And then I started doing a jazz festival. It was so good.
Yeah.
And then I started doing the Texas shows. Go to Houston. I spent a lot of time in Houston. I used to do really good in Texas.
Coming out of Houston, I booked a night in New Orleans, and And Airborne was saying, why are we stopping? Why, it's not on the highway home? And I said, you'll know when we get there. And so the whole drive, she's like wondering, why would you have this detour when it's not on our way home? And we get to New Orleans and we park, get checked in, and just immediately start walking and stopped at a restaurant. And I just ordered everything on the board, and just all the food came in, and the light bulb went off, and she understood. Okay, now I understand. Then we
Me,
just
me, and my,
walked. I'm
me,
sorry.
and my, me and my friends would get canoes and we drive out and stick them in the bayou and go paddle in the middle of nowhere. It was incredible. The alligators and snakes and nutria, and it was so surreal.
Oh, and just and the music and just the food and then the smells. And she had her first beignet, and then we did a hike through along the wharf, along the waterfront. And oh, you're getting a phone call there.
Yeah, let me see.
That sounds like an old school answering machine.
I'll call them back.
Okay, but so it's amazing. She fell in love with New Orleans. But then while we were walking in the streets, I saw one of the artists that I knew and actually had done my Emma Gansett show walking along. He parked and he was like walking. I was like, I know you. And I forget what his name was. And he says, oh, yeah, we're setting up in this little back street here that you just pay a small fee and you can have a piece of sidewalk and you just set up and you
Where
only
was
get.
that? Was that
I,
behind Jackson Square?
I know it was across the street from it. There's a street that goes off on an angle from the street with all the bars and restaurants. And
Bourbon Street.
no, it was the other side from
But it
Bourbon
was in the
Street.
quarter. It was in the
It was
quarter.
in the quarter.
All right.
But so and it just we're just realizing, oh, there's a whole. And he said they don't even start till midnight. That you're set up, and it's just a whole lot of downtime. But then it starts getting really busy, like around 11 o'clock at night, at midnight, is when you're doing your business, and you go like all night long.
Wow. I would think there'd be a lot of drunks.
Well, I mean, for what he was doing, it was worth it. He was there all the time, and I always thought, if I didn't have the shows that I do, that would be fun. I don't know that it would be the focused audience that I typically need for my work, but I think if I did something small or something tailored for that audience, I think it'd be a lot of fun to do.
Did you get into crawfish?
Oh yeah, I the first time I was there was back in the late '90s, and I got a 2 pound bag of crawfish, but then wound up eating and eating and eating and never getting around to this bag of crawfish until I'm at the hotel. And I jump up. It's like I need to eat that. So at 1 in the morning, I'm sitting by the pool eating crawfish, and I'm telling this story to my father, and he just laughed. And he says he did the exact same thing. Wound up in the middle of the night sitting by the pool eating crawfish because he had them, but he was eating everything else anyway.
Well, where did you get the crawfish? In a restaurant?
No, it was one of the big markets.
Oh,
Uh,
you didn't eat them right away? What we would do, we would drive out by the lake and we'd go to Dini's Seafood and we'd get like 10 pounds of crawfish and a couple of 6 packs of Dixie beer. And then we drive to the lake and sit on the lake wall eating the crawfish, sucking the heads, chewing the tails, and
oh
squeezing the
yeah,
tip. And we'd throw the empties to the seagulls. It was great.
yeah.
It was heaven.
Amport just chimed in. She ate alligator too. That was the first time.
Right,
And
yeah,
probably last time we ate the alligator. That's probably the closest to beef.
chicken. It tastes like chicken.
Yes, it's just like chicken. Yeah, but just all the food, the oyster po' boys, and just
Oh,
everything.
the Acme Oyster House. Those oyster po' boys were
Oh my
delicious.
gosh, it's nonstop. So anybody out there, if you haven't been to New Orleans, it's the closest you'll come to leaving United States completely, but you're still in this country. But it's like you're not even in this country with the range of food, the cultures, the music, and just that they don't care. They're up all night. I mean, at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, there's a band playing like it's 5 minutes to midnight on New Year's Eve, and the sun's out, and you're carrying your beverages in a bucket of ice on the street, and this band is playing their heart out, and it's right next door to another place with a brass band, and they're playing, and it's just the greatest music you ever heard. But then you walk further down, and there's another band playing. It just uh,
I always thought that New Orleans was closer to New York City than it was to the South. The the people don't sound like they sound like they're New Yorkers more than they do Southerners. They have a whole different accent.
right,
It's got the same mix.
The Cajun,
The
yeah.
Italian, the Italian influence, the Cajun influence, the French influence, the black influence.
Well, it's more of a melting pot. It's not like regional. It's more focused to just itself.
All right.
But you're making me really miss New Orleans. Well, I applied to the Bayou City show in Houston, and if I get in, the biggest perk to doing a show in Houston is the detour on the way home to stop in New Orleans.
Yeah, I did Bayou City. I used to, like I said, I used to sell in Houston a lot, and that was when Bayou City used to be in downtown Houston. It wasn't called Bayou City; it was called the Houston Festival. I used to
Hmm.
do that, and then there was the Westheimer Festival, and I used to do great at those shows. But
Yeah,
then it changed, and I went back once for Bayou City, and I didn't like it. I didn't do well.
yeah. I mean, it's a different audience. It's a whole different demographic, different sensibilities. But if I get in, I'll go. If I don't, I'm not heartbroken. But I will miss the detour to New Orleans on the way
Do
home.
you have a sales tax number for Texas?
I did. I haven't been down there in 10 years. I don't even
Yeah,
know if
I
I
heard.
have stuff.
I heard there. I don't know. I heard some bad things about that.
Well, yeah, that's all
You
part of
better
it.
check it out first.
Yeah, I'll have to look into it. So, well, this was fun, Bernard.
Yeah, I'm glad we got everything working.
Yeah, I'm glad we got it working. Glad we finally got a chance to catch up. It's the last interview I think was during the COVID lockdown.
Maybe I was trying to do it on the computer.
Yeah,
Maybe that's why it didn't.
yeah, maybe. But yeah, so that was 4 years ago. So yeah, I'm glad we got caught up with this because we generally have painters. Um, and it's fun to have a completely different medium and just a
Right.
whole technical thing to it. So everybody, I'm going to have a link to Bernard's Instagram profile at the bottom of the description for this thing when I get this posted on the site. So you have to check out his Instagram profile, and then his website is bernardzalon.com.
Right.
So that's Bernard Zalon with a Z,
Z A L
Zalon.com.
O N.
Zalon.
Yeah, I think it's better to go to my website than the Instagram account.
Oh, I'm sure. And then there's an article about you. I don't know if it got posted with our the announcement for this 5 o'clock club interview, but really great article about Bernard, about the all the years he's been on the same street corner in Manhattan, across from where H&H Bagels used to be. That's not there anymore, right?
Right. But I'm right across 80th Street from Zabar's.
From Zabar's. Okay. Do you still get food from Zabar's?
Yeah, yeah. They charge you like $10 for an egg salad sandwich. I don't like Zabar's. Too expensive. I don't,
It's an expensive trip to be in New York now. And with parking and just
they don't even have a bathroom there anymore.
oh, wow. The trials of being a street artist. So thank you all for tuning in. Thank you, Bernard. This was a lot of fun.
Thanks,
Um,
David. Yeah, I enjoyed it.
yeah, me too. And everybody, again, the show is June 6th, 7th, 8th. The deadline is coming up for the application. It's January 13th. That's in 1 month. And the application is on zapplication.org. That's the word application with a Z. And everybody have a great holiday. I'll be back next week with yet one more interview before the end of the year. So tune in for that. And thank you all for tuning in. Thank you, Bernard.
I'm going to go apply to Rittenhouse right now.
Good idea.
Okay, see ya.
All right. Good to see you. All right. Bye bye.